a video of something that I just want to have a play around with. Well, two things actually. So I had this idea of making like a French onion soup, but having meat in it as well. So it would be kind of like a oniony, meaty broth, but like not chunks of meat, like long strands of meat. So kind of when beef is cooked for a long time, it breaks down into the individual strands. So I thought brisket would be good for that. I kind of think it'd be nice, that idea of almost kind of halfway in between a soup and a stew type of thing. So kind of lots of onions, lots of meat in it. So I want to do that, and then also kind of want to do the same thing as that, but then layer that in between some Gaufrette potatoes. So, or maybe some potato roasties. So these are more like crisps, stroke, well, chips if you're American, but crisps if you're in the UK. So they're not, they're just kind of thin slithers of potato, a little bit thick type of thing. But, you know, you just slice them on mandolin, varying kind of success. But I kind of thought layers of this, layers of these maybe, and maybe I'll have to buy some more. No, I made these, but I can buy ones that are slightly thicker. Or maybe we'll just make some roasties, and kind of like a layer of meat and onions with a light gravy type of thing, cooking liquor that's been thickened up, and then a layer of those, and then more meat, and then more of that, and then more meat, and then more of those, and then maybe kind of topped off with a white sauce on top, like a bechamel type of thing, and then cheese, and kind of see how that kind of turns out. So not that dissimilar from a not a moussaka, but what my mum would call a moussaka. So what she used to do was she'd make something, and my dad would like it, but there'd be certain elements that he didn't like. So what it started out as and what it ended up at were different things. So my mum would cook a moussaka. So moussaka is aubergines, and its simplest form. It's one of those dishes that there's a lot of variations of it, but its simplest form, like meat and aubergines and potatoes layered, topped with a white sauce and cheese on top, which is kind of probably not very authentic, but a British interpretation of a foreign dish, which is generally what happens in the recipe around the world. You know, dishes get morphed in different kind of countries, and when you actually go back to the original, it's completely different. But anyway, so my dad would have liked it, but instead of potatoes, sliced potatoes, he wanted chips in it. So it was layers of aubergine mince and chips laid up with a white sauce on top. And then he decided he didn't like the aubergines, so it was basically chips and mince, slow cooked mince, maybe a little bit tomatoey, maybe not, and then white sauce on top and cheese. You know, and that's how it morphed into. And my mum would call it moussaka, but it's nothing like moussaka. By the time my dad had kind of said, I don't really like that bit element of it, and it changed. So my thoughts are kind of coming from that, that I would do a version of kind of that. So layers of meat and onions with potatoes, and then white sauce on top. No aubergines or anything like that. So it's nothing like a moussaka. But that's where the inspiration kind of comes from. If I use those, yes, I probably will, but I might make some potato roasties to kind of bulk out as well. So I'll do, hopefully we'll do some short versions where it's not me waffling, where I just kind of do the fry this, slice this, do that, layer this, make some sauce and all that kind of stuff, and then we're going to see what happens. Oh yeah, and I'm not going to make like a fancy stock for the meat. I'm going to fry the meat off, and then I'm going to just slowly braise it in some OXO stock, which is my beef stock of choice. If I'm honest, I find other beef stocks just not as quite nice. This is meaty and salty and delicious, and I bought some 25% less salt ones, so I might do a bit of a comparison at some point between those kind of difference. And I was kind of thinking, well, yeah, actually, I always kind of, I'm a bit low salt version, you know. about things, but I was thinking, well, yeah, actually, not basically designed for people who want to reduce the amount of salt in their cooking, which as a chef, I struggle with. I don't want to add less salt to things because there's lots of flavour in salt. It's a flavour enhancer. But that part of my brain that kind of thinks about things and then kind of calls myself stupid for ever thinking like that. And you kind of go, yeah, but what if you're using something that's kind of quite salty? So like a ham or bacon that's salty already, and you still want to cook it in a stock. Well, you just buy the stock that's got 25% less salt in it, don't you? And use it the same way, rather than using less of that. You can actually get away with using the right amount of that, but it's not going to be over salty because it's got less salt in it, type of thing. So from that point of view, we could actually add more of that to something and take it to the same salt level as that. So for every 4 OXO cubes, we could actually use 5 of those and it'd be the same amount of salt as that. But then we would have the extra added flavour of that extra stock cube, which would be more beefy and delicious, if that makes sense. That makes sense to me. So that's kind of quite interesting, rather than actually making your own kind of stock, which I have done. See, this is why my videos are too long, because I start waffling and talking about things instead of just cracking on. So I made my own stock cubes. These are vegetable ones. So I just made those, and I didn't put a lot of salt in them on purpose. So you can use more of them to make them more intense flavour. Which now, so I kind of think I could put some of those in as well, but I'm not going to. But of course, I made them less salty because I wanted to be able to use them in quite a high concentration to make like a really, if I wanted to make like a beefy tea drink type of thing, I could use more of those and it'd be really kind of quite intense. But if I use those, I'd be limited with how much I could put in because of the amount of salt that's in them. But anyway, so we live and learn, don't we? Well, hopefully. We don't just carry on making the same mistakes and then realising we're making the same mistakes. And then kind of going, oh yeah, that's why we don't do that. But anyway, so we'll do a few things, we'll make a bit of a video, and we'll see how it turns out. Delicious shredded beef and caramelised onion soup. Or is it a stew? Dust your beef shin in a little flour and then fry it in some delicious fat. Give them a bit of colour, cover with water and crumble in some delicious OXO cubes. Bring to the boil, turn down, cover and slowly simmer until super tender. Peel your onions, half the onion, quarter onion, not cutting through the root. Slice your onion on your Japanese finger slicer, not cutting your fingers. Melt some delicious fat, add lots of your sliced onions and lots of sliced onions. Season with salt and pepper and cook gently until it looks like this. Shred up the beef with 2 forks. Pull in any bits of gristle out. Skim off the fat from the broth. Strain the broth through a clean but slightly stained cloth. Pour the broth over some of the meat and some of the onions. Give it a heat. Give it a stir. Give it a taste. Give it a season. Sneakily use a bit of gravy browning to improve the colour. I've ummed and ahed about this. Oh, we've got a cable in the way, as always. And I'm not going to do a short version of this. I'm just going to do it. So I'll cut it down in the edit, so it's not too long. But the short versions take so much more work. So I've heated up more of the shredded meat with the last of the onions and add a little bit of the cooking liquor and then season with salt and pepper. So that is lovely, is that? That would be really nice as a basis for a pie. And then we've got the Gaufrette potatoes, we've split them into 3. I'm not going to do another roast stick, I can't be bothered. We're just going to use what we have because I worked yesterday and I'm going out tomorrow. And I've got lots of jobs to do, and I just can't be asked. So, 1/3 of the mixture. Like that. 1/3 of the potatoes. Like that. And repeat. Pour over white sauce. Top with cheese. And bake at 180 degrees until bubbly and delicious. Right, this is going to be too hot to eat, but we can cut into it. So scissors through the cheese to stop the first person getting all the cheese. Put it on the side. I don't know how well it'll hold together. In retrospect, I think it probably needs thicker layers of potato, but we'll see when we get into it. It's going to be nice. Well, there's no guarantee of that actually. Just because the ingredients that you put into something were all nice, doesn't mean it's going to come out nice. It might not work at all. It might be disgusting. Oh, that's okay. So it's held together. Right, let's give it a taste. Let's see what we think. Can't really, oh, you can see the layers of potato in there. Yeah, I was thinking, so I've been swimming. I've cooked this for, it's been on low for about an hour and a half while I've been swimming. Don't swim for an hour and a half, but it's like a round trip to the swimming pool and having a shower and swimming and coming back, and it's about an hour and a half. So it's been on low. And I was kind of thinking that, I wonder if we could actually use potato crisps. You know, like crinkle cut, thicker. Was it like McCoy's used to make those really thick potato crisps? I wonder if you could actually use those. You'd have to watch the seasoning in the beef because they're kind of quite salty, but maybe using like a beefy crisp might be kind of quite nice. So maybe that's a video for the future. But anyway, what's it taste like? Do you know what? That's pretty good, is that? That's pretty good. Loads of flavour in the beef. Onions are nice and sweet. Potato. I mean, I use Gaufrette, but Roche's would be good. Or leftover chips. Or hash browns. Or layers of potato waffles. So like a layer of meat, potato waffle, another layer of meat, potato waffle on top, and then white sauce on top of the potato waffle, and then cheese on top. I think that would be kind of quite nice. Would you cook them first? Yeah, I'd cook them first, so I'd get them crisp, the potato waffles. And same with hash browns, I'd make those crisp first. Chips, I'd kind of like work, so get the cookie chips, make them crisp, and then drain off the excess oil or fat on some paper, and then kind of layer them up with the meat and onion mixture, and then kind of top off. But I think yeah, they're all kind of like work. It's nice, nice. I don't know. I don't know what made me think of doing that, but anyway, it's very nice. Therefore, it's a success.